Good morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour. I'm Joe Jaquint, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and our toll-free number, 800-951-0592, the website at allamericangold.com. And welcome to Thursday, and my last day here in the Front Range. I'll be back in the Valley of the Sun tomorrow. But what a crazy week. And today we got CPI, we got jobless claims. I mean, we got all kinds of craziness happening out there. It is so funny is Jack's our producer up here. And to take a thing from Stuart Scott, he is as cool as the other side of the pillow because me and Jason, we're not even in the studio. Matter of fact, Jason just got into the studios. The bump music starts playing, and Jack's sitting there, and he's just looking at it going, okay, you guys got to get, but completely calm, right? You would have thought that he'd be like, hello, McFly, it's time to do the show, and he's just sitting there going, well, maybe they'll get in there, maybe they won't. You know, he's just, hey, whatever. Jack just rolls with the punches.
He's done this long enough to understand it for sure.
So the Dow was down almost 600 points this morning. We got the inflation data. It was hot. Headline 8.2%. And again, headline's important. But they always like to minimize. We really don't care about that number. We care about the core. So we already know. Listen, the headline number's a fake number, and then the core number's a more fake number, right? So core, you take out food, you take out energy, and that was the number that really got people a little wound up because that came in much hotter than expected. A new high for core. In this inflation cycle. So remember, we've had higher headline numbers, right? We've had at 8.6 and 8.7. This was 8.2, but the core was 6.6. And Jason, I think that just guarantees, listen, we're getting 75 more. But here's the thing that really got people on edge. It wasn't just gasoline. Right, because gasoline's been down. Now it's rising again, but it had been down. This is what they're calling now widespread, and this is exactly what we said that whole year that they were saying transitory. It appears like once again, right, the two dumbest guys in America were right again.
It's very possible, Joe. I think they understood the inflation much more than they were letting on. I think transitory was just an excuse to let it get hotter. I think they wanted this inflation. I think they needed a path forward, and I think inflation is a part of this plan. So the Dow is back up 50 points. We'll see. I think this is everybody get out and everybody get out before we crash it down. But we'll watch and see how this all plays out as the day moves on. So at one point, the Dow was down almost 600 points. Now it's up 100 points. So we'll keep our eye on that. Gold's down about 20. Crude oil's up a little bit. But when we're watching things here, the Japanese yen right now, 147.50. So we're going to be keeping our eyes on that. And then, of course, the British pound. So a story broke this morning that the UK government was going to pull back spending. Then the government came out and denied it. So this whole UK thing is not done yet. Remember, the central bank in the UK is saying that hey, we're done bailing out the markets. We're done bailing out the markets starting after tomorrow. But the Financial Times and others are saying, hey, listen, we've actually talked to these guys. They're going to keep bailing them out. We got the same thing now with the government and the money there. I don't know. I don't know what to believe. My guess is that I know this. The equity markets want to believe what like the Financial Times and them are reporting because they have no choice. Because if the UK doesn't step in and save the UK equity markets, we're going to have a British 10-year note just
5, 6, 7%. Because let's face it, we had 8.2 headline here. They're over 10 in the UK.
Yeah, it's everywhere, Joe. There's inflation everywhere, and the UK does seem to be a tipping point, doesn't it, Joe? It seems like you got the yen, and you got the UK, and it just seems like a huge piling up. Like I said yesterday, dominoes. Dominoes seem to be falling.
I mean, the euro's at 96 cents. The euro's at 96 cents, right? So it's right with it. You know, and I haven't even looked. Let's see our good old friends, the Italians. What are they up to? So their bond market so Spain, Italy, and the UK now seem to be together. So right now, the UK bond yields are down. So yesterday it got back up into that high fours, and people started freaking out again. Right now, the UK, it's at about 4.3. And Italy and Spain are down as well a little bit. So it looks like those three countries are going to go together. So if the UK loses control, it looks like Italy and Spain go with it. And then, of course, if Italy and Spain go with it, right, then the euro goes with it, right, the yen. I mean, is the yen really worth anything right now? I mean, seriously.
I just keep going back to that FOIA request and seeing all those trillions of dollars that were sent out to countries, to banks, to everybody, because everybody needed it.
Are you comfortable? Are you comfortable? All of our assets, they tell us to be in stocks and bonds. Are you comfortable with this, that we need daily intervention from somewhere just to pretend to keep the Ponzi scheme going? Are you comfortable with that? If not, you need to call us. 800-951-0592. We'll be right back. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Thursday. And again, it's nuts to sit here and think that the vast majority of Americans' wealth is at stake here on things that, let's face it, could be anything, right? The UK decides to do this or that. The Japanese decide to do this or that. Europe decides to do this or that. China decides to do this or that. And guess what? This or that's not the right this or that. How about our central bank, right? Everyone's freaking out because they're raising it too far, too fast. And yet, look at the data. The data today, just flat out, simply put, they haven't gone too far, too fast. They're still behind. Matter of fact, according to today's data, they've had zero effect on inflation. Zero. Not one iota. Matter of fact, it's actually worse because they care more about the core number than they do the headline number, and that number is the hottest that we've seen going back to since we changed the way we calculated inflation, but going back to the 80s.
Does it have an effect, though, Joe, as to keeping it from getting way out of control? I mean, think about it, because they started too late and they're coming in too slow. That's kind of what it looks like. Came in late, going too slow. So just the fact that they're doing some rate hikes, does that just keep it from getting to 10, 12, 14? Are they just simply getting a...
Well, you know what? I think you're right about that, yes. So they probably have at least prevented it from getting to 10, 12, 14. But
right.
Again, remember what they keep saying.
What they're saying.
And this is the hard part. This is why I think everybody's struggling here today to know what to do. Are we going to believe what they say publicly? Or are we going to go with, well, wait a minute. I know that's what they're saying. But
right.
Every time that we freak out, and I'm talking when I say we, Wall Street freaks out, they come and bail us out. So we're going to keep operating on the premise that they're going to keep bailing us out. And so the realities, I think, here are really simply put, in all fairness, this is going to be hugely, hugely destructive to the middle class of the developed world. the middle class in Japan, the middle class in the UK, the middle class in Europe, the middle class here in the United States. This is going to be incredibly, incredibly dangerous.
And this is where I go back then, Joe, that if they started late and they're going too slow, that's a purposeful decision. These guys know, I think they know what's going on to a certain extent. And here's what I think, Joe. After the 2008 crash, and we saw the FOIA, I'm going to go back to that FOIA request, their way of getting the inflation they wanted was $29 trillion, and they couldn't get 2%. I think they had to shoot much higher this time because of the situation that we're in.
All right, so I've got news. So now I can tell you the turnaround in Wall Street. It has maybe nothing to do with interest rates or jobless claims today. Kroger looks like is going to buy out Albertsons Safeway, and this is another horrible, horrible sign. And let me tell you why I'm saying, why is that so bad? So Kroger already the largest supermarket chain, right? You know, you got Walmart and Kroger dominate the grocery store,
right?
Dominate it, and now they're going to absorb Albertsons and Safeway, and it's just like the banks.
Yep.
It's just like the multinational, these huge conglomerate companies. This is really signaling the death of the mid-tier companies in America, and this is really, you know, you're almost now really, hey, maybe I can survive. A lot of small businesses are getting eaten up by inflation, right? The ones that can survive, okay, you're going to be left, but this, what I'll call the small to middle tier companies in America, dude, they're on the watch list. They are now going to be the endangered species, and these big mega corporations are just going to be picking the carcasses of all of these companies. I mean, just think about what's going to happen with these, because you know what a big merger like this is. Okay, well, we don't need the accounting departments at Albertsons Safeway. We don't need your CFO. We don't need your middle managers, right? Matter of fact, some of these places, hey, we got a store right down the street. Let's shut those stores, right? And this is just giant layoffs is what this amounts to, Jason.
Yeah, how many stores will they close? That'll be the big question. How many stores close at the end of this thing? That's where the jobs and everything you just said. That's how they just mash it together, make it more efficient, and less choices for the consumer.
Yeah, and they're talking about 2,200 supermarkets between Albertsons and Safeway, almost 300,000 employees, and of course the market cap about $15 billion. Kroger's market cap $32 billion. So do the math, right? I think this is really the only way of survival right now is going to be in this hugely inflated markets with their inflation, the running the way it is. The only way to really try to survive is to get bigger, right? Because, you know, we talked about it yesterday. PepsiCo. Hey, our cost went up 17%. That was the average. And let's face it, nobody buys better than them. They're huge, right? And Kroger's saying, hey, the only way we're going to control costs, we got to get bigger. Right? So we can have more buying power. We can leverage. We can squeeze. You want to get on the shelf here? No, we're not paying that. We're going to pay 10 cents less. We're going to pay 20 cents less. Otherwise, you can't come in. This is what's going to happen.
And Albertsons or Safeway don't have the same leverage.
They don't. It's not big. Think about this. $15 billion, not big enough. It's not big enough. Right. Albertsons, Safeway is like, man, we're not surviving. Right? Already, you know, at least in Phoenix, Albertsons, Safeway, they're expensive compared to Fry's and Walmart, right? They're expensive. My wife will go there because it's less crowded, right? That's who shops there. Who shops there? Well, it's less crowded.
Well, and just a sidebar, I remember because I go to different grocery stores, and it always shocked me that the Kroger and the Walmart during coronavirus they didn't push me on the mask thing. I don't wear masks. Well, the little grocery stores, they kicked us out. And I was thinking, what are they doing? Don't you want to be competitive? If the big competition is not forcing these insane mandates, why are you doing it? To me, it's like these guys are going to be gone soon. That's exactly what I thought.
Well, and it may be. So we'll continue to watch this. This is a huge development here. I think this is going to be what we see out of Wall Street now is companies that are those mid-tiers getting bought up by the bigger competition guy, and we're just going to be left with just big, huge conglomerates. And again, makes it easy because look at what we've seen from Google, Twitter, Facebook, a lot of these huge corporations that, with the mandate.
Yep.
Okay, well, you can't work here unless you got shot up.
That's right.
Right? This is more of that.
Yes, it is.
Right? This is more of that. Now, think about the government. The government's probably loving this.
Oh, yes.
Right? Hey, we only need to call 2 companies now.
That's right.
We got to call Walmart and we got to call Kroger, and we just control 90% of the supermarket business in the country. So if these 2 guys, if we can get them to do what we ask them to do, hey, we've done our job.
Correct. Yeah, you get rid of any choice in the marketplace, and then you can control the few players that are in place. I mean, let's face it, like transportation, what choices do you have when it comes to air travel, right? There's no choices. There's just a couple of airports. They do all the commercial air flights across the country, and what do you going to tell them? No, I'm not going to do your gated procedures. I just want to walk onto the airplane. You have no choice for that unless you have a private plane.
Yeah, that's your only choice then. So very interesting development. I'll be honest, and again, you just don't. That's the thing. From 1 hour to the next, we just don't know what the next news cycle is going to bring. Right? This is something where an hour from now, who knows? Credit Suisse could come out and say, "Oh, our credit default swaps are blowing out again." I don't know. Right? We don't know what's happening here, but this is a major development here. That at least anyway, it's not finalized, but they're saying that they expect this deal to happen. So obviously they've been working on this, right, quietly, that this deal could happen as early as next week. And the supermarket industry just got a lot smaller, and that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing because now it's going to put even more pressure on the independent grocers out there, because like I said, Albertsons and Safeway, they were higher priced. You can compete a little better. And then of course, those decisions, right? Are some of these towns just going to be left out? Hey, you know what? It's just not worth having a store in your town. Sorry, you don't fit our pattern. Right? And
well, I noticed on the smaller grocery stores, the selection and choices there, like let's just say Safeway. When we don't go, my wife and I, we don't go to Safeway. The choices for the types of foods we want, because we're a little more finicky, we want higher quality foods. Albertsons and Safeway, they don't have that stuff, So it's people want a certain selection and a certain type of diet they're eating. They get that at Kroger, at King Soopers. They get that at Whole Foods. They're not getting it at Safeway. I can't find the foods that we eat there, so I haven't put my money there at all. And during the coronavirus, these stores were kicking us out, and right. Why should I go there?
And then on other news, we had jobless claims today, up again at 228,000. That's got to go up at least. Now it's up 30,000 in the last, say, 3 weeks. That's got to go up at least another 30 to 50,000 before we can even say anything. So once again, this is another number that still says, Jason, the Fed's got a long way to go.
Yeah,
long
way.
Because you got to remember now, we heard Jay Powell say it yesterday. It was it Charles Evans, right? The Chicago Fed president saying, "Listen, we need job losses."
Right.
And really, as we know on jobless claims, until that number gets, above 270 and really closer to 300,000 plus, you're not going to see negative prints on those monthly government numbers. And today, it's up, but it's only at 228,000. Jason,
Right.
And we got Christmas. I know that way. Maybe we're not going to hire like we've done in the past this holiday season, but they're still going to be hiring.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Amazon's hiring, Walmart. They're maybe not as many, but they're still hiring. I think we go through this pretty much. I think it's just through the end of the year.
Right, and the way they calculate the numbers has always been to make the jobs numbers look better. So they're actually fighting against their own bad math. You know, I saw the numbers saying, "Oh, look at here's the remember the positive point. Look, the 55 and olders they're joining the workforce." Well, that just means that teenagers are going home not having to work because the parents are paying all the bills, Joe. And the guys that are 55 and 65 and older, they're working because they have no other choice. So those people need to lose their jobs, Joe. From what they're trying to get done, they can't be hiring 55 and 65-year-old to fill positions that are needed for these jobs. So it's going to have to go back. It's going to have to be crushed. I think that's a good indication that it's starting, Joe. It's a good indication when those people are going to get jobs because of the inflation. But I like you said, I think there'll be rate hikes in 2023, Joe. I think at least a couple going into 2023. That's how far I think
and again now,
maybe through the whole year.
We got to relook at how high rates are going to go, right? This number today, like I said, the headline number, I think the headline number came in pretty much where I thought it was going to be, in the low eights. It was that core number that really says, I think we're probably going to see Fed funds rates in the 5s.
Yep.
And potentially 6. I mean, I know it's hard to imagine, but that's what it looks like right now. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Thursday. They're now saying this Kroger deal may happen by the end of this week. We'll see. That's really, really fast, and we'll watch it. Gold's coming back here. Now down 13 at 1660, and it looks like gold and Wall Street seem to kind of follow each other lately. That's been the pattern here. One other thing driving the Dow higher today, after like I said, it's down almost 600 points this morning on that hot inflation. The ECB, and this is just all ridiculousness, saying that they think they've got to only get to 2.5% for their inflation, which, okay, sure. And again, Eurozone inflation, like I said, is higher than ours. How anyone could come out and say that's the size. Well, I think now what I think that really says is you want to break. We're watching Japan break. We're watching the UK break. If you want us to break, force us to go above 225, and we're going to break.
Yeah, lords and peasants, Joe. I mean, we're headed into an age in the coming years where there's the haves and the have-nots. I mean, if you've done any old movies or history, you see the poor peasants of recent centuries and such. The farmer goes to the marketplace, and buying a shovel is a major purchase. I mean, think about the world that we live in, Joe. You go to the Home Depot or whatever, you buy like 3 of them on sale, right? Those days, that's what people don't understand. I don't think this inflation ever goes away. It is going to get steadily worse, and they're going to try to condition the population into accepting the lower standard of living. And when you go buy a set of gloves so you can do some garden work, it's going to be a major purchase. Nobody's going to own cars, Joe. Look at the price of the cars. It's so expensive just to drive the thing, to finance the thing, and good luck even owning it. Owning a car is like the mortgages of 50 years ago. 7 years, 8 years to buy a car. Most people, by the time the car is fully paid for, you're buying another one. You might as well just lease. You might as well just not own it and be happy, right?
Well, and again, I think look at Ford and their announcements about the price of their new electric trucks, right? When they first came out, I want to say 2020 vehicles were like 38,000, right? Then 2021s, or maybe it was 2021s were 38. 2022s were like 46. Now they're saying 2023s are going to be 52, and that's base, right? That's the stripped down, you got nothing, but the basics is at 52, which means that hey, I just want the normal stuff, right? You just give me the normal stuff, not the high-end stuff, but just put me in them, which is where most cars are. You're talking 75, 80,000. But the problem is the price seemingly every 6 to 8 months goes up another 3, 4, 5,000. So by the time we sit there and you say, okay, well, 2025, are we looking at a future where 2025 the base car is going to be $100,000?
Yeah, I was talking to Joe this week about my housing area that I live in, how it doesn't make sense with all of these expenses that some housing areas like the one I'm in is still exploding with tons of houses being built, and they're going to double the size of this entire monstrous, huge development starting next year. And then I told Joe, well, there's this metro district. Remember, Joe? Just like you said with the Ford, everything is things cost too much. How do we pass it to the consumer? And in this metro district, the way they do it is the developer doesn't pay for the land. They pass that on as a tax through your property tax. It gets taxed on to the homeowner, and they pay for the property afterwards every single year. And I don't know if metro districts, I haven't even learned that much about it, Joe, but I don't think they ever go away. It's like a permanent tax on top of your property tax.
Well, and again, another creative way, right? That and people don't know this, right? They're just look at all the development, and everyone's doing the same thing. Like, that's kind of weird. That's kind of odd. But then all of a sudden you're like, well, wait. The reason why all the home builders are building there is they don't have to pay.
They don't have to pay. They pass it on. Pass the buck, right?
Right, and brilliant. Right? Who wouldn't want that deal?
Here's the crazy thing. I know that these expenses are being heaped onto me, and as much as I was like, man, I could move somewhere else. It'd be a lot cheaper. I could find another way. And then I think, you know what? At some point, the next place, or just the development I'm in, how expensive is it going to get to buy the house? How high is that HOA fee or that Metro District fee going to be going forward? It's almost like I'm at least freezing myself into a position that's affordable for the future. Because the one thing about inflation, Joe, is if you can get these items taken care of now, the inflation then doesn't hurt you as much. This is why you buy gold and silver. The inflation hurts you to buy gold in 5 years because you have to buy gold at that higher price taken from those dollars that are in your accounts. You buy that gold now, and then the inflation, for rich guys, inflation kind of helps the ones that have all the assets, Joe. They kind of this is why I think this inflation is rigged against us. Kind of helps these rich guys that have all the assets, Joe, that have inflation.
Yeah, and again, I think all the little tricks that are out there, and there's a lot of them to be had. Bank of America is saying that they expect payrolls to turn negative in the fourth quarter and then stay there for all of 2023. I don't know what data is Bank of America looking at that I'm not seeing.
That just means you're going to pay people less. That's what they're saying, right?
Well, I mean, they're saying that the layoffs are going to start.
Oh, layoffs
are going to start. I'm not seeing it. I don't know. Now, maybe they're right. And again, like I said, we just had jobs, 267,000. Right, we get weekly jobless claims. I mean, 220. Yeah, okay, it's up, but it's nowhere. That would be a good number in normal times. 228,000. You'd be like, hey, the job market's hot. Only 228,000 people lost their job. That's still a hot jobs market. I don't know. I mean,
well, if you have to lay off anybody, let's just say just a small amount of layoffs at any corporation. That doesn't really give the signal that you're going to get a pay raise to help with the inflation, Joe. So that's another reason that the payroll should drop as far as dollars because, well, you're not going to give raises that's going to keep up with inflation because, do you want a job or not? That's kind of what that's going to happen to inflation and getting a raise at your job. People should be getting yearly raises at their jobs, Joe. They're not going to get them this year, I think, or next year.
Well, yeah. Hey, we gave you the big raise already. That's all there is.
Take it or get out.
Yeah. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. Gold and silver have now come all the way back. Gold is, well, I guess gold's down 1670. Silver's down 7 cents here, right at $19. The Dow's up 560. Pretty sensational day. We got red hot inflation. But again, someone's always going to tell you, it's not that bad. It's okay. It's really, if you don't count this and that, so now they don't want to count other stuff. So you got some guys out there, well, if you don't count rents, then it really wasn't that bad. Or if you don't count labor, it's not that bad. Now, to Jason's point, a lot of people are saying today what Jason just said. Hey, they're not going to get the big raise. The raise is that whatever you got this year, that's what you got. And that next year, you're not getting those. Right? And maybe, I don't know that to be true, right? B of A says jobs are going to be negative in the fourth quarter. I don't see it. I mean, if first-time jobless claims today was 260, 270, 280, okay, maybe. They're 228. Yep. If the jobs number that came out, a week ago, if that number had been, 67,000 or 125,000, maybe, but it was 267.
There has been movement, though. Remember last year, Joe, it was about how nobody could get employees in their doors fast enough.
Correct.
So we do know that that problem's kind of gone away. Nobody's talking about I can't get people. Now it's but I don't think it's moving as fast as maybe Wall Street or somebody wants, so that they can start stop the rate hikes. We haven't got the abundance of job losses that are actually going to change their tune as far as rate hikes. So give it some time. Got a rate hike coming, right, Joe? And then maybe another one, and then maybe a couple into 2023.
The first couple of days of November, we got the Fed meet, or November. Yep, we got the Fed meeting. Said, I'll get it right. Listen, it's bad when you're off a day. I'm literally off a whole month. So, but we'll get that rate hike on that Wednesday. I think it's the 2nd, right? And in the middle, so that week before Christmas, the 16th, 17th, something like that of December, right? That's going to be the next one.
Yep.
Right now, nobody has 75 or higher. Right, everyone's thinking that the Fed's only going to do, for whatever reason, 50. Right, which still, now you put that's 4.5 Fed's funds rate, but at least so far, that's wishful thinking. I haven't seen it yet. Now, Jason's right. We've seen some signs, right? It's not everybody has a now hiring sign on their door anymore. Right. Okay. Not the deli at the supermarket near my house. It's open now. Right. And they got people there, and they got the hot foods back out. Right. They've got people working. So to that point, okay, that is improvement, right? The jobs created. Listen, we're not creating 500,000 jobs anymore. Right. So it's still a big, 267,000, still a big number.
Right.
And then on the inflation side, yes, you got gas prices to come down, but food is, and again, I look at food. Everything that we see out of farming, out of agriculture, says that food prices are going to continue to increase again next year. And the biggest reason is because for a lot of the crude or food, the inventories are at near record low levels. And we know that the cost of fertilizers, and we know that the fact of the matter is, in a lot of the world, hey, people are trying to use less fertilizer. Some of the farmers, hey, I'm just going to go a crop that needs less. We know about water problems here in the West. right? We know that more farmland is going to be unfarmed because they won't have water, which says to me food prices are going to be higher again next year. Fuel, that's not going anywhere. It's not going unless we start losing millions of jobs. The only way this stuff gets better, right? Job losses have to really pick up.
That's right. It's such a bizarre world where you have to hope for, at least the Fed has to hope for tremendous job destruction so that they can continue with the Ponzi scheme.
It really, yeah, I've never seen it.
Yeah.
I've never seen the head of the Fed, and then, the Fed governors come out, and they're doing this on TV. We need to lose, a couple million jobs. And you're like, well, how do you lose just a couple million?
Right.
Right? What happens? Okay, well, what happens if we lose 10 million or 20 million? What happens if the 30 to 40 million people that work part-time get their hours cut?
Yeah. What happens if you lose 5 million jobs and the inflation continues?
I don't want to talk about that. That
I don't see how they control that, Joe. I don't really see how the inflation stops. I think there's too much slush money that's behind the scenes that they're not telling us about. That's out there.
Basically, what Jason is just saying is this is I'll call another Volcker moment. Is what you're saying?
I just think there's too much extra money that they're not reporting. Just like the FOIA request, trillions of dollars to help Swiss, to help this country, to help that bank. And
it could be.
And you're raising rates.
I hate to say, it could be.
Think about raising rates and secret money being sloshed out.
I guess apparently I've been making that argument the whole show today. Because I'm like, I don't see it.
Right.
Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back. 800-951-0592. It's insanity in the markets today. It's been down 600. It's been up 600.
Volatility.
I think a lot, the news about Kroger, the news on the ECB. I don't know what, man, they must have got into the cannabis at the ECB that they think 2.25 would be enough to stop inflation there in Europe. But nonetheless, everything was down big. Everything's coming back. Listen, I had $20 gold pieces at 2,060 this morning when gold was 1640. It's now back, 1660, 1670. I'm going to be lazy and not change it back. So 2060 on 20s, rolls of dimes, $120 a roll. If you buy 100 rolls, that's a half bag or more. You can buy more if you'd like. But if you buy 100 rolls or more, $115 on dimes. So that is a really on silver, and that's a hot price for government hallmark silver, Jason.
$11,500, right, for that half bag?
Correct.
$11,500. I know I got some silver guys who've been giving me some calls, so you got a good way in on silver today.
Well, in both, it's kind of weird, both in Colorado and Arizona, both offices, this week, we've had people come in and literally buy pretty much every ounce of silver that we had that wasn't spoken for.
Correct.
And it is something where I think a lot of people are starting to figure out, hey, this is going to get a lot uglier before it gets better.
Yeah, and it's funny how because that word barter comes up, and you see dark clouds, and it's like, I don't know how bad it'll get, but I might want the smaller stuff. I might want a whole lot of the smaller stuff in case things break down. A power outage. Once again, your digital money doesn't work, Joe, if the power goes out.
We're all, I think, accepting that the digital currency is coming, and I think all of us are smart enough to know that that's going to come with restrictions.
Yep.
Right? They are going to start limiting what it is that we can buy. I look at crime, on the half-empty cup yesterday, we talked a lot about crime. Crime's up everywhere, almost deliberately up
everywhere. We're not prosecuting, defund the police, all of these things. And I think that you get crime elevated enough, right? Then all of a sudden, with the digital currency, well, you know what? Crime's so bad, we just got to start taking away stuff, right? You can't buy ammunition, you can't buy guns, you can't buy this, you can't buy that, and again, surveillance state, right? I think it's another way to get we need more surveillance, right? We the 5G, the towers, the cameras, all of that stuff as a way. You know what? There's a reason why crime is skyrocketing. Because let's face it, the economy really we've got more people working today than ever before in this country. So usually, people associate high crime with bad economy. Well, we haven't had the bad economy. Why do we got the high crime?
Because we have a bad economy. That's a bad economy and crime, or good economy and crime. That's the one single indicator. It's obvious. When times are good, people don't need to steal and hurt each other.
800-951-0592. I don't hang in there. Wow. I'm shell shocked today and I told you. Yesterday, I don't know. It's going to be crazy, whatever it is.
You did say it could go high, it could go low.
It did both.
Or it could go flat.
Who knows?